Hello and welcome back to another Reviews by Beth video, and today I'm going to be talking about the book called The Tattooist of Auschwitz, written by Heather Morris, and it is an incredible book that I am going to recommend all of you to read. I don't have the physical copy here with me as I am actually loaning it out to a friend, but I'll put a picture of it right there. It's quite recognisable with the blue and white stripes, uniform that the people in Auschwitz used to wear. And I think this is a really important piece of literature that tells us a lot about the story and the struggles of the people who lived through Auschwitz, especially Lale and Gita. Now, if you don't know what Auschwitz is, basically, it's about the Holocaust during World War II, and Hitler and Germany basically put all the profiles of people that they didn't like together and put them in concentration camps. So that was primarily Jews and Jewish people, but also gypsies, some people who didn't agree with political views, people of all different ethnicities that maybe weren't white and Aryan as Hitler liked, and they were thrust into concentration camps, forced to hard labour, starved to death, and also gassed in the gas chambers. So we are going to be talking about quite a few terrible things in this review. But that being said, it is actually a really good book, and it isn't as super dark as you would imagine it to be. Now, this book follows two characters, Lale, the primary and the protagonist of the book, and also Gita, who we come to meet. And there's a really cute opening of the book where we see Lale meeting Gita for the first time, and it was almost a love at first sight moment. So these two characters fell in love in the concentration camp of Auschwitz, which is near Krakow in Poland. Now, I actually, before I read this book, many years ago when I was about 14, I've actually been to Auschwitz. I went on a history school trip with school. It was quite a tough trip, and it was very, very eye-opening would be the right word. It stays with you. I think if you go and see Auschwitz or any of the concentration camps or gas chambers that the Germans built, it is quite a lot to take in, but I think it is super important that we learn about that part of history, and that we always try and make sure that nothing like that will ever happen again. And so I think it's very important that we share these stories and we share our experiences and their experiences, and making sure that prejudice and racism on that extreme of a level will never happen again, and persecution of an ethnicity or anything like that never happens again. So yeah, I'd been to Auschwitz before, so when visualizing this book it seemed a lot easier for me because I've been there, I'd walked around, and I kind of felt even more profound reading it because I'd been there and walked through the same gates and walked in the same steps as those people, and it is quite something. So if you ever have the chance to go to Auschwitz, I would say go, because even though it is an extremely sad day, it's very important, and I think it's good to know about that part of history. But anyway, moving on to the story itself. So a bit of context for why it's called The Tattooist of Auschwitz is because Lale becomes the tattooist of Auschwitz. Duh. But what basically happened is they dehumanized everyone in the camp so much to the point where they didn't even have names anymore. They literally just had numbers, and that's how they would identify them if and when they died. The Germans were big on records, so they wanted to make sure that everyone was recorded, and they did that by tattooing all of the prisoners that went into the camps. So we follow Lale, who enters the camp, and we kind of get a sense that as soon as he enters into the camp, as soon as anybody enters into the camp, you are instantly in survival mode, because people are being shot at, people are dying, people are being killed left, right and centre. So it's, how am I going to get out of this alive? So he is actually from a wealthy family. He knows many different languages. He's quite a clever guy, and so he uses that to his advantage, and he does many different things in the camp to try and keep himself and others alive. So the first thing he does is befriends the Tattooist of Auschwitz, and he becomes his apprentice or helper, and then later on down the line he becomes the sole Tattooist of Auschwitz. So that is how we meet Lale. And then we also meet his love interest Gita, who he falls in love with, and he just thinks that this woman is the most beautiful woman he's ever laid eyes on in the world. And even though we're on the backdrop of Auschwitz and how awful and degrading and terrible it is, I mean, words can't describe how terrible the experience of Auschwitz was for people, he manages to find love within that. And before picking up this book, I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be really heavy. I don't know if I can get through it. I was on holiday. I was like, I don't know if I want to read a really, really heavy book, especially because I'd been to Auschwitz and I know how heavy that can be. And I'd also been to the museum, the Holocaust Museum in Washington DC as well, which was also extremely heavy, but also very good if you're ever in the States and want to go to a museum. The Holocaust Museum in Washington DC is also extremely good as a museum. But I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to be too much. But actually, I will say that this story, even though it speaks volumes on the atrocities that happened in the camps, it is actually a love story, and it is one of hope, which is something that I was not expecting whatsoever. And so while all these terrible things are happening, you are rooting for these real people, Lale and Gita, to try and find each other. You're desperately hoping that they both stay alive, and you're following this beautiful story of both of them falling in love, even in the darkest of times. And I think it can just show you how much love can prevail and how much a bit of kindness and hope can do for people, even in the most dire of situations. So there are a lot of twists and turns in the story, and I will not spoil the ending, so I won't do that for anybody who wants to read the book. But it is an interesting story. We follow many different situations, especially the harsh winters, people dying from different diseases, not just starvation and hard labour, but also how can you escape the hard labour? How can you try and stay inside? That's what Lale did. He was managed to stay inside and away from hard labour by tattooing many people. And Gita actually manages to find a way, or Lale happens to find a way for Gita to remain safer inside. So it's about taking those opportunities as well to survive. It's the survival instincts, the way you can survive in this horrible world that they've been shoved into. So yeah, it is a happy and sad book at the same time, which seems kind of odd, but I mean, it was a really good read. My mum and dad both read it. They both thought it was an amazing book. I also read the bit at the end of the book with Heather Morrison telling how she wrote the story as well, and she basically interviewed Lale, and she spent hours and hours and hours with himself. He wanted to tell his story. He was like, people need to hear this. People need to know what happened here. And I want to share what happened because these things should never happen. I mean, there's a section in the book where I think is probably the most powerful bit of the book, but I think that's just for me. The whole book is powerful in itself, where he actually had to go into the gas chamber after a load of bodies had been gassed, and he had to identify someone based on the number that he tattooed onto their arm, and just to make sure that that is the right person that they'd killed. And there was a line in the book where the officer or the soldier just makes a remark like, you're probably the only Jew to ever have gone in and out of a gas chamber alive. And the way that the soldier just says it like so nonchalant, and the way that it's just such a powerful line in the book, I think that really stuck with me. And I think that is, for me, the most powerful moment in the book, because it's just crazy. It is an incredible book, and it is very moving, and it is, I think, again, very important to read. So yeah, I think this book is about resilience, it's about hope, it's about love, it's about making sure that you're doing the right thing. Always try and be kind, because kindness goes a long way. And also just to make yourself aware and educate yourself on these issues is very important. And This book does that wonderfully. But I cannot give this book less than a 5-star. I think it was brilliantly written, very moving, very powerful. It doesn't leave you. This is the thing about when you learn about Auschwitz and about the Holocaust, it doesn't leave you, which is important because it shouldn't. We should always remember the Holocaust. So, on that kind of sad note, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment and subscribe and support my channel. It really helps. If you want to buy the books, you can using my Amazon links, and also if you want to support the channel even more, my Patreon channel is also linked. Thank you so much, and bye bye!